Hi, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to this. This is the voice of many, and I am the voice of many. My name is Testimony, and it's Friday again. Welcome back. So, you're gonna be listening to my voice for some 30 to 40 minutes, or maybe shorter. Enjoy.
I know it's September 13 already, so but still yet, happy new month because it's the first time we are reaching out to each other this month. So happy new month. Welcome to the Ember month, the September, October, the Baba month. Ember month. So I hope you have a beautiful month. And it's a new month in new month theme. So today I'll just be introducing you to September theme. Drum roll please. Okay, so for this month theme, we're talking about God's will, and I'm really excited. So we're talking about God's will. I know you're wondering why we're talking about God's will all of a sudden. Well, that's not God's will I was talking about. One, I think that's a valid reason, but okay. But we're talking about God's will, and I know most times when we hear God's will, we always like God's will, like God's will as per relationship. That's not the only time where God's will trumps every area of our life. So yeah. So what to expect? Well, September is promising to be a good month already. So expect God's will versus your will. That's one. Expect God's will in relationship. Expect how to work in God's will. It's just going to touch every aspect. So if you have questions about this topic before, you better start commenting so we can add to our episodes. It's not when we are done that you're like, I wish I asked. Don't wish. Just send that comment already. It doesn't bite. Okay. So one other thing I want to add is that I don't think actually we would be adding a Wednesday episode. I don't know if you're excited. You can tell me in the comment section. And it's not going to be every Wednesday actually, just maybe 2 Wednesdays in a month. For the days when we have to spill over an episode, we want to make sure that you enjoy the podcast and at the same time it's not something too long. So we'll be sticking to our normal time that we used to have, except when we have guests. So days like that, we'll have a Wednesday episode. You will just know that there's a part two. You will know, don't worry. It's not going to be impromptu. You will know when there's a part two. Anywho, yeah. So anywho, please prepare for Wednesday's episodes. It's gonna be fun. I promise you. You're gonna enjoy it. Okay, and another thing I want to talk about is the fact that we really want to know. I personally want to know. Don't worry, I talk about myself like I'm a we. I don't know why I do that. Okay, so I really want to know what you think about Voice of Many podcast. I really want to know what you expect. I really want to know your thoughts. So I'm going to be dropping a survey next week, Wednesday, before the next episode. So please look forward to it. I'm going to send it via WhatsApp broadcast and maybe I'll find a way to drop it on YouTube too, the link. So just look forward to it. Thank you so much. Please feel it. Anyhow you deem fit. Thank you so much. So driving straight into today's theme, God's will. So today's just going to be like an intro kind of thing. So first off, I think we need to talk about what God's will is, right? But I mean, whenever we start a new topic or a new course in school, we do introduction. So this is just like an intro. Come along. So today we'll be talking about God's will. So what's God's will generally? Well, from my point of view, I believe God's will is his desire, his plan, his purpose, and his divine expectation for us. God's will is revealed to us in the scriptures, right? Because we cannot know God's will without his word. So God's will is revealed to us in his scriptures. Can we just I don't want us to do a lot of opening of Bible. So I'll be reading it from here. I hope that's fine with you. So God's will for us is revealed in the scriptures. I just want to quickly share Deuteronomy 29 with you. I'm using hard copy Bible, so bear with me. So this is King James. As much as I would like to read another translation, I am stuck with King James for now. So Deuteronomy 29 says that the secret thing belong unto God, Lord our God. But those things which are revealed belong unto us and to our children forever, that we may do all the words of his law. So the words of his law here is God's will. Do we understand what he will have us do? And it says that the secret things belongs to God. That's the ultimate will. But there are some things he has revealed to us which we have us do. Do you understand? So those things that he has revealed to us which we have us do is his will for us. Now, God's will is good for us, and it is for us individually. God's will is good for us, and it is for us individually. Jeremiah 29:11 paraphrased is that he knows his thoughts towards us is good and not of evil, to give us an expected end. That means whatever plan God has for us, whatever purpose he has for us, in this God's will, in quotes, it is good. God's will for us is good. And it's individual. So it's possible that God's will for me is not God's will for you. Do you get? Because it said towards you, like you. It was referred to as an individual thing. You is personified there. It's not towards the children of God. Do you understand? So in God's will, we all have freedom of choice, actually. God's will is not mandatory. God's will is not something that he just forces on you. It's not because, God is a sovereign being, so therefore we just have to do what they have us do, just like our school headmaster and asked us to sweep the floor. We have to sweep. There's no choice. God's will also carries the freedom of choice. In Romans chapter 1, verse 24 to 26, I just want to paraphrase it. God was saying that he was going to give the children of, was it the Israelites? I'm not sure now. He was going to give them to a reprobate mind because they know his will, they know who he is as God, but they've decided to choose to go another route. So he's just going to allow them to reprobate minds. That is not a curse on them. When they come into the light, he's going to accept them. That is not judgment. God doesn't judge us here on earth. So, but he was just saying, he's leaving them to their free will. Them to the reprobate mind was their mind, a deprived mind. Our mind is not a mind of God. So, as at that point, they have a reprobate mind. So, we have freedom of choice. As much as God's will is there for us, we still have the freedom of choice. So we can choose to do God's will. That's just it. So I think we all have said, I just want to rewind so to make sure that you're following, okay? So one thing I said is God's will is good and perfect. I want us to understand that. It's a perfect will. Number two, God's will is revealed in the Word. We cannot find God's will from our pastor, from books. It is only revealed in the Word. God's will is accomplished through faith and trust. God's will is accomplished through faith and trust because, you can see something in the world and you don't necessarily believe it or you don't know how to go about it. So it is accomplished through faith and trust. Then God's will is not mandatory. I think I've been able to pinpoint those 4 points. God's will is not mandatory. It's good and perfect. It is revealed through the word and can only be accomplished by following the word through faith and trust. So, the next thing I want to talk about is what does it mean to actually follow God's will? What does it mean to actually follow God's will? Personally, I can't really say this is how to follow God's will, but there are some basic steps that we should follow, which is surrendering and trusting that God's will for us is good and perfect. Surrendering and trusting. Romans 12 verse 1 to 2 says that, dearly beloved, that you present your body holy and acceptable unto God. This is your reasonable service. This is your reasonable service. It means that you surrender. It means that you just give it. It means that as much as this is God's will for you, the only way you can do it is by surrendering and trusting that the will is perfect. That's just it. Another way we can follow God's will is submission. Another way to follow God's will is submission. Submission cannot be overemphasized. People talk about submission as, most times the time we get to talk about submission is mostly in relationship or marriage. But submission is not just, just coming and like, I don't have a mind of my own. That's not submission. Submission is, I have a choice not to do this, but I choose to do this. I choose to give my will. I choose to give my choice to your choice. I choose to bend my choice to your choice because I recognize that you have superior power. That is what submission is in this context. In fact, generally, I believe, because it doesn't mean that you don't have other choices. In fact, when you don't have choice, it is not submission.
actually. Submission is, I have a choice. You have a choice, but I choose to leave my choice to do your will or to do your choice. That is submission. So to follow God's will, we need to actually submit to God. We need to actually submit to God. Another way is by having faith. Another way is by having faith. Hebrews 11 verse 6, I'd like to read. I don't want to paraphrase. So Hebrews 11 verse 6 talks about true faith. That means it's not possible to do God's will except you have faith. It's like it's literally impossible to do God's will except you have faith. You just have to. Like, you're not following blindly, because faith is not what it is actually the evidence of things not seen. You just believe in God. So Hebrews 11:6 says that, but without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and is the rewarder of them that diligently seek him. That means that you cannot necessarily do God's will except you have faith. It is impossible to please him. Pleasing God is doing his will. So it is, in fact, it's impossible to do God's will without having faith. Faith in his words, faith in he himself. And then another thing I just want to mention is alignment. To do God's will, you must be aligned with God. Because imagine God is in a certain place and you are in another place. I don't know. I just feel like it's impossible to do God's will that way, because you have to be in the same place to do God's will. 2 Corinthians 10:5 says that bringing all thoughts and imagination into the obedience of Christ. This can be said that you, like I said, submission, like I said, God's will is not mandatory. You have a choice. You have a mind of your own. Like, God didn't create us to be thinking like him. We also have our own mind. So when you read the word, or when it says something to you, you have human voices to listen to and be like, what should I not do? But the choice is for you to choose to submit to him. So when we're talking about alignment, bringing all thoughts and all imagination, all deeds into obedience of Christ, it is still submission. It means that you're aligning your will as much as, oh God, I would like to do this, as much as I think I prefer to just be solo. I don't want to talk to anybody. And God is telling you that you are going to speak to a lot of people. As much as I would like to do that, I'm aligning my will to yours. So I guess that's alignment in this context. So, and one other thing I just want to quickly rush through, because we're just doing an intro, it's not really the in thing, is the common misconceptions about God's will. Hell, you people should be capping down. I've heard a lot of things about God's will that I'm like, do you people really think like this? God is not a village headmaster. God is not a tyrant master. God is not a military commander. God is not all of that. God is not going to enforce his will on you. God is not going to ask you to do something that is impossible for you to do. God is not wicked. I don't know. I needed to put that out there. The key point is God's will is good and perfect. God's will is revealed in his word. God's will is accomplished through faith and trust. And God's will is not mandatory. Now, common misconceptions about God's will. I want to just separate facts from fiction about God's will. That's just it. So I just have 5 here. I didn't want to do a lot. Maybe you can comment one misconception about God's will you have or you've heard before that is funny to you. So the first thing I've always said is God's will is always hard. Like, people have turned into that. If it's not hard or difficult, it's not God's will. That's a lie. God's will is good, but sometimes it doesn't suit the flesh. Maybe that's your definition of being hard. It could be. But God's will is good. It is not hard, but sometimes it doesn't suit the flesh. And necessarily, anything that does not suit the flesh seems hard to us as humans. So I believe that's why people say that. I want to believe that's why. God's will is not hard. Put an X on that. Okay. Another thing I would like to talk about is the fact that people say God's will is a one-time revelation. Like, God's will is a one-time revelation. Once he says it like this, that's all. Like, he will just give you a manual, and that's how you will live your life. You just say, testimony, I want you to do this, and that's on period. God's will can be revealed over time. It can be revealed gradually as we seek him. Emphasis on seek him. It means that if you don't seek him, it's possible to be working in God's will before, and suddenly you're out of God's will.
Yes, it doesn't just give it to us like a curator's manual. Okay, take this manual and this is everything you need. That's all. Period. The Bible is actually our manual, but sometimes we actually need to seek deeper. I just hope we understand that. So God's view sometimes is not a one-time revelation. In fact, most times it's not a one-time revelation. It is revealed over time, gradually, as we seek Him. And that thing I've heard is God's will is static and unchanging. That, oh, you can't change God. We want to change the invincible nature of God to the fact that it's unchangeable. It's, guy, we need to calm down. God's view can adapt to changing circumstances or seasons of life. Yes, I know you are hearing that for the first time, or it seems like, testimony, what are you saying? I'm saying that God's view can adapt to changing circumstances. Okay, say for example, God told me that He wanted me to have a foundation for children, and God knows that I'm a student currently. He didn't say drop out of school and go and create a foundation for children, or maybe because I'm writing an exam now, my final years, and I'm writing my last exam this week. In fact, I'm done. Oh my God, I'm excited. Sorry for branching out. Okay, so He didn't say, oh, I want you to go to a school today and go and speak to them about purity today, and I have paper by 3 p.m. That's not God's will. Oh. Please, let's be calming down. Because I've heard a lot of people just relate a kind of desire that they have to serve God to God's will. That necessarily is not God's will. So they not be like, God is asking me to do something right now. And according to the season of life, probably, you are supposed to be in school. God's will is not static. Like I said, God is not your village headmaster. He's not a wicked tyrant master. So His will can adapt to changing circumstances and seasons of life. As much as it won't suit the flesh most of the time, sometimes, most of the time, it won't suit the flesh. It's never sometimes. The flesh cannot triumph. So, at the same time, God's will can adapt to changing circumstances and seasons of life. I don't know if I was able to nail the point for that, but let me know in the comment section. So God's will can adapt to the seasons of life. It means that as much as God wants us to do His will, He also understands that there are certain steps. For example, God will not give His will to a 10-year-old child to go and be preaching the gospel in the wilderness. I want to just say that as much as people say that age don't matter in the kingdom, sometimes it does matter. It does matter, like a lot. So God understands the season of life. He knows that as a 10-year-old child, if you talk about relationship to some people, in fact, not some people, to everyone, nobody will listen to you, because what do you, a 10-year-old child, know? So God's will can adapt to seasons of life and circumstances. Another thing I've heard is God's will is only for spiritual relationship or spiritual things. That's the reason why sometimes we miss it out on God's will, because we only ask Him for maybe marital issues or big issues like work. God's will applies to every area of our life: daily activities, choices, work, relationships, school, career. God's will entails every part of our life. God's will is for every part of our life. See, it can't be overemphasized. God's will should be done in every area of our life, because how else are we going to walk the walk and not just talk the talk? How else are they going to see God in us if not through every other steps of our life? So God is interested in every other way. Then lastly, people say God's will is specific and detailed. I already talked about something like that when I said God's will is static and unchanging, or is a one-time revelation. But I still want to talk about that. People say God's will is specific and detailed. Well, God's will is God's will might not be a guiding principle. It might not be like a whole manual. Like I said, that step 1, walk to the left. Step 2, walk to the right. It might just be a guiding principle. It might just be a value. It might just be a consecration. It really might not be a step-by-step plan. It might not be a step-by-step plan. Some people have a step-by-step plan. I don't know. I don't want to, my research was not to get the accurate analysis. So I don't want to say everybody, but mostly with books, the Bible, people that had God's will, even in the Bible, example of people that worked in God's will in the Bible, and presently the research I was able to do, it has never been a step-by-step thing. It might just be a guiding principle. It might just be a value. It might be an instruction. God's will can be an instruction. It might just be what's it called now? I said it recently. Oh, in my words fail me. It might be a consecration. Thank you, Holy Spirit. It might be a consecration. It can be anything. And that is God's will for you. And then you will now pattern your life to work with that principle, the value, instruction, or consecration. That's just what God's will entail. It's not that difficult. It might not suit the flesh, but it's not that difficult. It's not that hard. It's just the Bible. That's it. The Bible is our manual. It's the mandate by which we live. So any other thing that I didn't touch, or maybe you want me to touch, you can write it in the comment section. But trust me, I'm going to consult the Bible. So consult the Bible too. God's will is good for us and perfect. Is revealed in His Word. Is accomplished through faith, trust, and submission, and it is not mandatory. I hope I've been able to do justice on the introduction for God's will, so that when we come into more intricate topics during the month, we get to follow and blend in. Thank you so much for listening as usual.
So if you're listening for the first time, do well to listen to other episodes. You're going to enjoy them, trust me. And that's it for today. This is Testimony signing out. Bye.